What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about a quote that John Garvin told David Jaffe when they did their interview, talking about Metacritic, how the Metacritic score is everything when it comes to Sony. So I was debating covering this. I had a couple people ask me, and when I saw this headline, I was like, okay, this is something I could very well talk about because I do have some opinions. I just don't want it to be too similar to videos that I've already made in the past, okay? I want to talk about this. I want to talk about what it means and why I definitely disagree with Sony's standpoint, okay, on this. As always, though, before I get too far in, make sure we're pushing for 50K subscribers. Make sure you guys are subscribed if you haven't already. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up. Make sure to hit the like button. It helps YouTube's algorithm push the video more. Definitely, I don't just say that to say, I don't just say it to make it up. It definitely does. And final thing, if you guys want to follow me over on Twitter, Podcast Now 15 is my Twitter handle, and the link for that is in the description below. All right, it's a short quote. Let me say this. I know he also said a lot of other things, some other things that are making the headlines about, if you like a game, you want to support the game, buy it at full price, like right at launch, which a lot of people have been criticizing and attacking. I kind of agree. I see where he's coming from. Like, watching the interview too, he talks kind of differently, where maybe if you read that, it can come off a different way. But I don't want to necessarily make the video about that, so I'm not going to. I do know he said some other kind of hot topics, okay? But this one stood out to me. So he said, this is just the reality of Sony. Metacritic score is everything. If you're the creative director on a franchise and your game is coming out to a 70, you're not going to be the creative director of the franchise on that franchise for very long. So that doesn't mean you'll be fired. It doesn't mean you'll be let go. But that's important to remember, okay? What I will say is this. He's definitely right. Now, you don't need me to tell you that he's right? We've seen this enough times. There's definitely been a lot of talk at Sony from what we've heard of either insiders or people that have worked there. Yeah, Metacritic score is a lot. Now, some companies, I don't know if Sony does this with their developers, but I know some companies tie bonuses into the Metacritic score that they get. So if you hit like an 85, you get your employees, they get a bonus. If you get a 90, your employees get a bonus. I think CD Projekt Red did that right up to Cyberpunk, and then they stopped that with Cyberpunk because of the disaster that was that game. But I know some developers tie bonuses into it. Again, like from that quote, or from John Garvin, it seems like Sony literally also values franchises like that. So if you have a franchise that comes out and it gets 70s, maybe even high 70s, but not in those 80s or higher, then it's maybe not a franchise to continue. So here's what I will say, okay? We heard Jeff Ross talk on David Jaffe's show. I love the fact that they're doing this, by the way. I love the information that we're getting from this, and I like to hear about the gaming industry from the inside like they talk about. So I think it's fantastic. But what we've heard from these two, obviously, and I guess what we can infer, and from even Jason Schreier's article, so Days Gone 2 was pitched, and it's not going to happen. Or at least not happen right away, okay? And the reasoning could be a couple things. It could be sales, right? That they just broke even / made a little bit of profit, but they didn't do like insane. And also the fact that maybe the review scores weren't that high. So I can and I've said this before, this is kind of controversial. I understand if Sony just looked at it and said, okay, flat out, we cannot give a budget of $100+ million or however many millions of dollars it would cost to make a sequel, okay? We cannot do that knowing that this game only sold this amount, and we don't know that the second game is going to do double, and say the budget is double. Actually, Jeff Ross said that the final budget, which was much higher than what it started as for Days Gone, would be the starting budget of Days Gone 2, and it would only go up from there. So again, like, it sucks, and I hate it. I want a Days Gone 2. I pushed the petition to you guys. Like, I've done all these things. Okay, so I'm definitely on Days Gone 2's side. I just do understand, I guess, from a business perspective, if it's not going to make Sony money, or maybe it won't even break even, I would understand why they'd be a little scared of it, okay? With that being said, if the critic scores had anything to do with their decision, that is just, you need to change. You need to fire the person that values it, and you need to change that right away. It's no secret I'm not a fan of critics, right? We've talked about quote-unquote gaming journalists in the past, and I don't say that as maybe as mean as some people take it. There are definitely good people out there, okay? There's some gaming journalists that follow me, okay, over on Twitter, or I know that they watch. There's good people, okay? I know there's good people, and I go on sites to read articles all the time, okay? I know there's good people out there, but I would say, like, generally, okay, it's quite a disaster, okay? And especially when it comes to reviews. Reviews are just one person's opinion. Now, yeah, Metacritic is an average, but Metacritic doesn't take into account a lot of other things. And I think people are very much waking up to this now, way more now than they did, say, 5 years ago. Like, Metacritic doesn't take into account a lot of YouTubers. And when I do my review score predictions, or sometimes I'll talk about the review score that Metacritic gave a game, okay? And a lot of people will say, yeah, I go to Skill Up, or I go to like all of these different people, and they'll just list off names. I go to all these different YouTubers for their opinion. I don't care what the Metacritic score is. I care what these 4 YouTubers care about. And yeah, I don't know if there should be a metric where, like, okay, you need to have so many you need to have so many subscribers, let's say, to be on Metacritic. And maybe they could do that. I know there's some movie critics, Chris Stuckman, Jeremy John, like, these people are, I think they're counted in Rotten Tomatoes, but it took them a while. I think they have to kind of qualify for it in a way, right? So maybe they could do that for games. But like, as of right now, less and less people care about what critics say. Yes, sometimes critic scores are close to user scores, but to be quite honest with you, most times they're not that close. Sometimes they're off by 5 points, sometimes they're off by 10 points, and like, that's a big deal. Like, if the average score is an 80 and then users say it's a 90 or 75, 85, or even the opposite way, 85, 75, countless times. I mean, I can probably count on my hands the times that they're within 5 points. Say a critic gives an 84 and the user score is an 85. Doesn't happen all that often. Most times they're pretty darn separate. And yeah, there's review bombing and there's all this different stuff. But in general, I just don't think people care about, and I know this is talking a lot about people's opinions with review scores and Metacritic more than like Days Gone, but that's the point, right? That Sony, I feel like that's pretty out of touch of them when they're supposed to be, or they prided themselves as, and they still should be, like, for the consumer, right? They're very consumer friendly, and that's definitely taken a hit, right? We talked about Jim Ryan and all this stuff over the last, say, year or so. They've hurt that kind of image that they're very consumer friendly, because again, consumers, I think, more and more care more about what YouTubers think, or make this is a crazy one, make a decision on their own. They don't go to IGN, they don't go to, heaven forbid, Kotaku or Polygon or GameSpot, right? They don't care what these people are saying, right? Most times they disagree. Most times they're far off what people, or the just the general opinion of the game is, and maybe not like far off, but they're far enough. So like, that's the thing. Like, say Days Gone, so say like Days Gone 2 gets a 75 on Metacritic, but like the user score is a 90, okay? Well, like, did they want the 90 to be the critic score, right? But like, does it matter if the critic score is a 75 but the user score is a 90? Yeah, the critics maybe is under that 8. Say they look at an 8 as like this golden thing that they need to hit to greenlight sequels. Yeah, it's under it, but the users love it. But again, that's where I'm not saying they made the decision solely on reviews, because I think maybe the reviews absolutely had something to do with it, but maybe also the sales. So they look at the reviews, they say, okay, it got a 72. Okay, the user score is like in the 80s, that's good, but then, it broke even, it made us a couple $1 million profit, but like, I don't know if we could do that again. And if that's the case, you know what I mean, that's a little bit different. But I think generally, going with anything based off reviews, I've never liked the whole bonuses. I said that in the beginning of the video, how some developers do bonuses. I've never liked that, because again, that's stupid. If a game gets an 80 and they need a 90 to get a bonus, but the user score is like a 92, well, they got it, but they didn't, because they're not going to get that bonus, because it's the critic scores that these companies care about. It's not even the user scores. And again, review bombing, people leaving 10 out of 10s just because. But you know what? A lot of reviewers don't beat the game, okay? That's a lot of reviewers are kind of like fakes or frauds, or however you want to say it. There's a lot of bad people out there, okay? Again, there's a lot of, there are good, I wouldn't even say there's a lot. There are good people in the gaming industry. There's a lot of bad people, okay? So that's just something to keep in mind, or at least that's my opinion. If you don't agree, that's totally cool. But I don't think that's a good move from Sony. Don't make your decision, again, solely on reviews, even though they probably aren't, which is good. I hope they aren't. But if they are, please stop right away. So let me know, guys, in the comments below. What do you think? Do you think they should care about critic scores, user scores? YouTube, should they like look at YouTubers as like their number one thing? Let me know what you guys think. As always, make sure you guys, again, are subscribed. Bell icon turn on. If you did like the video, make sure to give it that like. You can follow me over on Twitter if you want. Podcast Now 15 is my Twitter handle. Links in the description. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video.